Welcome to Sideline Sanity with Michelle Tafoya, sponsored by Legacy Precious Metals. There has never been a better time to invest in precious metals. Visit legacypminvestments.com, legacypminvestments.com. Coming up, Kat Timpf.
For nearly 3 decades, she's reported the action from the sidelines. She started very young. She's covered the NBA, NFL, Olympics, and the college football and basketball national championships. And now, during these insane times in our world, Michelle Tafoya thinks we need a serious dose of sanity. This is Sideline Sanity with your host, one of the sanest people on planet Earth, Michelle Tafoya.
All right, so what's your favorite late night show, folks? Do you still stay up and watch them? If you don't, you're missing out. And I'm talking about Gutfeld on Fox News Channel. And yeah, some people go, ooh, Fox News Channel, and which is so stupid. But anyway, yes, and they are dominating the late night ratings. They're regularly beating out Kimmel, beating out whoever else is on. I think, Colbert is their main competition. They're beating Colbert. So part of the reason it's not just Gutfeld, the guy the show is named for, but it's the two regulars, Tyrus and Kat Timpf. And Kat is now my guest. And I'm telling you, Kat, I think it is understated maybe how important you and Tyrus are to the success of that show. You would agree, correct?
Sure, yes, but thank you. I mean, I really do appreciate that, but I also think it's really not just, us as individuals. I think it's, the kind of the group of all 3 of us and the
Yep.
way that we all sort of get along
Hmm.
and, the kind of chemistry that we all have, and I think, I mean, well, we are all, we are all friends, and I think that that really kind of shows through on the show because a lot of times, we all prepare, and I have come, prepared with things I wanna say, and I think that a lot of the best moments are sometimes sort of the off of the cuff kind of riffing amongst the 3 of us where we kind of, Greg teases me or me and Tyrus will tease Greg,
Yep.
because people watching at home, kind of feel like they're hanging out with all of us.
That's totally what it feels like, and it's so
Mhm.
much fun, and I've had the pleasure of being able to join the show a couple of times, and it's been so fun to watch in person as well. I just had a brilliant idea for the 3 of you. Do you remember when, you had the Muppets and they were so beloved, and then they did Baby Muppets? You
Yeah.
guys should do an animated show, Baby Cat Tyrus and Greg or Baby Gutfeld or something, and it'd be animated. It'd be like the 3 of you as preschoolers and how you would have spoken back then. Isn't that a good idea?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do an animated like, an animated show and, like, do the voices for it. It was funny, actually, Gutfeld was saying to me the other day that I should do a cartoon about, um, my cat, Cheens, and, like, keeping him alive because and this is something we talk about on the show often, like, he is old and mean, and he has all these health problems, but I won't let him die, like, no matter how much he wants to, like, he's almost 12, which I know isn't that old for a cat, but also, like, he has cardiomyopathy, he has IBD, he has asthma, but, like, I give him medicine every day, I give him an inhaler when he needs it, and just I was kind of describing this stuff to Greg, and he's like, "This is insane, like, this is crazy," and I know it is, but, like, I will do anything for this animal, like, I'll put him on a ventilator, and my husband's always like, "You're insane, like, this is not a good use of money." I'm like, "Well, doesn't matter."
It's your money, it's how you spend
Yep,
it, and it's what you value. So the name is on that necklace you're wearing, correct?
Cheens, yeah, so a lot of people don't know this, they ask me that this often. I named him like, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I went through also, like, an extreme hippie phase in my early 20s. I was living in LA, and that's where my boyfriend at the time and I found him on the street there, and, his full name is actually Sergeant Pepper. And then
Okay.
that's long, so we started calling him Pepper, and then it just sort of evolved to Peppercini Pepper, and we just started calling him Cheens, and Cheens just stuck. So his name's
Wow.
Cheens now. Whichever, when I made it like my first appointment at the vet out here, they're like, "What's your pet's name?" I'm like, "Cheens." I'm like, "Cheens Timpf?" Like, that was not what they were asking, but that's his name,
I
and,
love it. I love how the
yeah.
names oops, I just totally kicked my camera. I love how the names evolve. This is,
Yes.
this is This is like professional podcasting at its best. I love how names evolve, but that is so fun to know. What is it about this cat? Because clearly, everyone loves their pets, right? But
Right.
this is different. This is like next level stuff, and I'm wondering if
Yeah.
it's because this cat has gotten you through I don't know. What
Yeah.
is it about this cat?
That's exactly what it is. When I got this cat, I was a 21-year-old Fox News intern and cashier at Boston Market. So this cat's been with me through everything. Horrible apartments. There's a while when very brief period of time when I didn't have an apartment in LA and I was kind of like couch surfing. He was lived with me in DC, he lived with me in Virginia, he lived with me in Brooklyn, he lived with me all over the place here. And it's I my life over the past 12 years has been extremely tumultuous. I mean, going from, a cashier to where I am now, and then all the things in between, my mom passing away when I was 26. But like the one consistent thing that I've had throughout my life is that this little kitty, he sleeps under my chin every night. And
Oh gosh.
it's also I wouldn't say that I would never describe him as a nice cat. He's not nice. He's mean, he's old, he's completely feral. We found him, he was 6 weeks old. So
Oh
they're not
my
supposed to be
gosh.
separated at that age. So like he's
Right.
not socialized properly. Um, but he loves me and he's pretty much, only loves me. So we have this really nice codependent relationship going on between the two of us. And it's yeah, like, it's like, I'm never gonna have that bond with another pet. I have my French bulldog that I got with my husband, who's obviously, like, adorable, fancy dog, very friendly, loves everyone loves him, and there's this very interesting ecosystem in the apartment because Carl is so cute where this is my French bulldog's name, we'll walk him and he's got a cute face. He struts down the street. Everybody stops and oh, he's so cute. And Carl knows it. He knows how good looking he is. And he doesn't understand why at home I have a very obvious preference for this mean old street cat. And Carl just can't understand it.
And so
Because
does
he's
he
like, I'm
act
so
out,
cute. Everyone
toward
loves
it?
me. Yeah.
So does
So
he can you see it on him? Like, "What the hell, lady?"
yes, absolutely, and, like, the dog will come and sit on me, and then Cheens will come crawl up and sit higher on my body, like, sit up against my face or something when the dog's on my lap or something like that, and, Carl is yeah, he's actually, like the cat will, mess around with him, like, if Carl's in the crate, the cat will strut around outside the crate, like, I don't need to be on a crate because 'cause I'm not stupid like you are, and they just are always fighting for, our attention, and it's funny because it is, like, 2 phases of my life, like this feral street cat that I got when I was a cashier and then, was with me all the time, when I lived alone. And then I have this, fancy the French bulldogs are designer dogs that I got with my husband now that, things are going a little better for me in my
It
life,
it
both career-wise and personal life.
it's
It's the
almost like
2
they represent the 2 parts of your life.
exactly. Mhm. Yep.
So,
Yes.
make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, but the
Yes.
other's gold.
And I'm not and this isn't, this is no slam on my husband, but, the dog's our dog, okay? And, like, a and assuming that we stay married, which, I mean, I plan to, or I wouldn't have done
Right.
it. We've only been married a year. Um, won't ever have anything that's, like, just, like, mine like that. Like, the cat is
Yeah.
just mine, and it's like, I could get another cat, but then it would be our cat, and I kinda
Yeah.
like how the cat, like, I'm his entire world.
Yeah. Oh, oh, oh,
Um,
oh, oh. I get
yeah,
that. I get
yeah.
that. I really do. I appreciate it, Kat. It's so sweet. And you just described this rather large swath of your life
Right.
that was up and down and up and down. And it's interesting to me, you're libertarian, you're self-described libertarian.
Yep.
You are obviously super smart. I'm wondering how you came to land at Fox News when you did. What happened there?
Well, I mean, I worked at Campus Reform. I ended up getting a job at National Review. I think Greg talks about this in like his live shows that he does, where he kind of liked some of my columns that I wrote for National Review, but I had this like little teeny, like little teeny tiny picture, like at the bottom of the columns that was like really blurry. So he invited me to be on Red Eye, and I showed up, and I'm like, I'm like this 25-year-old girl, which I don't think he really expected. And it was my first red eye. It was 8 years ago, actually, in May, and, I had actually been a huge Red Eye fan, even in college and when I lived in LA, and it was my life goal to be on Red Eye, and, I was really nervous. I threw up in the bathroom, but at Fox News 'cause
Seriously?
I was so scared before,
Oh my
but
gosh.
I just pretended like I wasn't nervous, I just faked it, and, we really just kinda hit it off, and, I've been doing, like, a few Fox and Friends appearances, like, Obamacare was the hot topic, so it was,
Yep.
like, millennial perspective on Obamacare. I was doing those, like, two-minute hits all the time, on Fox and Friends, and that I kinda dropped off a little bit, but then my first red eye went well, and they asked me to come back every 2 weeks, and that was actually towards the end of Greg, hosting the show because the first episode of the Greg Gutfeld show, the weekly show, was 7 years ago, so it was actually towards the end, and, so after a while, they asked me to come do these pilots for this new weekend show, and I
Right.
was like, "This is like an audition," and I was even more nervous, and I threw up before those too. But I because
I
it
didn't
was
think
it was
you
one of those
ate, so I
things.
didn't know you had anything to throw up.
It was I mean, I'm somebody where if I get nervous, I get really nauseous.
Wow.
And this was, some of the most nerve because this was, like, stuff that doesn't happen. Like, it's
No,
almost
it
strangely serendipitous type stuff where I would tell everybody when I was in college and girls like, "Oh, I wanna, like what do you wanna do?" Like, ultimately, like, "What do you wanna do after school?" And I was like, "Well, I wanna work with Greg Gutfeld." And, like, it's kind of nuts that it never, this kind of stuff never actually happens.
Right. I mean,
So,
the
but
odds are, yeah, ridiculous.
yeah, that I actually, to go from being a cashier and it's, this and one of the best decisions I ever made, which I did not go to I got into Columbia Journalism School, and I did not go because I decided that taking out an $80,000 loan wouldn't be the best idea.
Yeah.
Looking at what an entry level journalist makes, that I didn't think I'd ever be able to pay that back. So I kind of just learned the skills for free from internships, and I waitressed. After Boston Market, I ended up getting a waitressing job, which I was so excited about. I was like, I make tips, like I'm gonna be rich. Like I was so excited. I remember, and that was the best decision I made because it kind of gave me the freedom where wasn't saddled with all this debt. I had a little bit from undergrad, but I had scholarships. So it was mostly from like room and board and that kind of thing. But it was the best decision that I ever made, and it wasn't easy. It was really really hard. But I
I
think
the
that's
decision was
something more
difficult to
people should
say.
consider.
Yeah, no, so you hit on 2 points right there in that anecdote. Number 1, you don't have to go to college, folks, to make it
Mhm.
in this world. And $80,000 a year, was it? Or
For a
for over
one-year program, including,
Oh my
the
god. I
cost of
mean,
living and
yeah,
here yeah, it was for a master's in journalism. I have
no,
no
no.
journalism or broadcast training. I majored at Hillsdale in, like, English literature, which ironically is exactly what Greg majored in also.
Isn't that funny?
Uh, and then I just did internships.
Yeah. It's one way, folks, and by the way, she made the responsible decision to not
Yeah.
take on student debt she knew she couldn't pay back easily, rather than counting on somebody else to forgive it for her, so kudos to you there. Alright, so you end up as an intern and, you first of all, for people who don't know, Red Eye aired, like, what, 3 in the morning or something on
Yeah.
Fox overnight? You didn't record it then, obviously, but it was a lot of fun. I remember catching it on certain nights that I couldn't sleep or whatever and thinking, "There's some real talent on this show." And, anyway, so then he gets so you then you're piloting with him on this Gutfeld thing. How many pilots did they shoot, Kat?
It was a few, and I know that there was other people I know of at least one other person that they had try out because at the beginning, I wasn't sitting on the couch with everybody because we it used to be a couch. I was off to the side, and they tried so many different things with my role, like, I was, like, the ombudsman type, and then I was, like, a fact checker, and then I was
Right.
over there in an apartment, so we tried all these different things. But I know I tried a few and I was so and after they kept having me at all of them, I ended up being like, "So, like, am I like, do I have a job? Like,
Yeah.
is this am I work like, am I working here?" And I remember it was a really crazy, crazy time in my life. Back then, so I officially started working at Fox 7 years ago which actually 2 days ago, May 31st was the first episode, which was when it was official. But um, that was 6 months, or like about 5 months after, 5, 6 months, 6 months after my mom had died, 3 months after my grandma died. And I got my contract 3 days after the guy that I thought I was going to marry broke up with me in front of my father at Coney Island.
Oh my
So
god.
it was a lot. And then I remember the first time, and the other Joanne Noschinski, who was used to be on the show in Tyrus's place, she and I were going to go film our first like bit, like man on the street type bit, and I got a phone call, and I was living in Bushwick, that our family dog like randomly was found dead, like he had died overnight, like while I was on the way to go film this funny bit. And it was just like such a transformative time. Um, and I think that's uh, something that kind of guides my life, or that I've has become a guiding principle of my life, is that, when you're going through these tough times, that the ability to laugh is really, for me, the only thing that's gotten me through it. So a lot of people would say that it might have been difficult to be like, I have this job where I'm supposed to make people laugh, and my life is not funny right now. But for me, it was really the opposite. I'm not a religious person, at least not right now. And, the healing power that laughter and being able to make other people laugh provided me, I don't know how I would have gotten through all of those times without having that.
That's so interesting. Kat Timpf is an interesting, unique talent. No, I'm serious. Like, uh, I have a quick anecdote, which I'll tell you in just a second, about an older gentleman. What he said to me the other day when I was picking my daughter up from school. This is kind of cute. So, quick break, and then back with Kat Timpf. Folks, since November of last year, the stock market has plummeted, but gold has been on the rise. Gas prices are ridiculous. The stock market is insanely volatile. Inflation is even worse than it was last year. And now we have the war with Russia and Ukraine, and hopefully that doesn't spread any further than those two countries. But the markets, they don't like instability. The good news is you have options. Gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold for protection. Gold provides a hedge against inflation and protects against a weakening dollar. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust when investing in gold and silver. You need an investment that's going to protect your wealth and retirement. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive while there's still time. I mean, remember 2008? Those who invested in gold saw huge gains, while others saw their retirements just slip away. Legacy Precious Metals can advise you of all your options for investing in gold and silver. You can speak to an IRA expert at Legacy Precious Metals at 866 528 1903. That's 866 528 1903. Or download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. Legacypminvestments.com. All right, Kat. So I'm in the carpool lane and I'm driving up to pick up my daughter who's 13. My son is 16. And there's a gentleman who does like security at the school and kind of helps organize stuff. And he starts walking over to my car and I'm thinking, uh-oh, what am I doing? Am I texting while driving? Am I in trouble? And I am looking at him and he's like, roll down
Yeah.
your window. So I rolled down my window and he said, oh gosh, I hesitate to say this part, but I'm going to say it. He goes, "You were much funnier on Gutfeld than you were on The View." And I said, I said, thanks. And he goes, that Kat Timpf, she's funny. Now, it was just funny to me because I know people think you're funny. I know that already, but here's this guy that I've known for, I don't know, 15 years or so, and known him peripherally. I don't know a lot about him, but learned that not only does he watch Gutfeld, but he kind of has a crush on you. So I thought that was very sweet. And I didn't tell him that I was going to interview you today because he might have gotten in the car and come home with me. And I didn't think that was a good idea either. But what makes you, to me, unique, and I hope that, you know, you're not uncomfortable with people complimenting you to your face, but you don't seem like you're trying hard. Like I remember the first time I worked with you in studio, I say worked with you, but I followed you into the studio and I thought, she seems shy or nervous. I don't know which, but that's not how she seems when she sits in that chair and just has a blast with these guys. So how do you explain that sort of disconnect between a person who can be very shy and a person who can just sit there and absorb whatever Greg throws at you and kind of look at him and go, yeah, whatever, dude?
Yeah, I can actually totally explain that. I mean, I'm a person who I'm extremely awkward in a normal situation. Like to me, if you ask me like what sounds more terrifying, giving a speech in front of 5,000 people or making small talk at somebody's baby shower. And I will pick the speech in front of 5,000 people every single time.
Yeah.
I've always been someone who's been a performer. I was really into, I was like a theater kid, but I couldn't sing. So like there were, I would, do my best. I'd always be like in the background. I love to perform. I love to be in front of people. I don't know what it is, but in that situation, I feel a lot more comfortable than
Mhm.
I do in any normal, like, hangout, situation. I think I make the joke that it's like, "Oh, my attention-seeking behaviors are normal," but I don't know what it is. I think it's because a lot of my, awkwardness or weirdness, that again I was, made fun of a lot in school, and it doesn't come from nowhere that I can be people I did get made fun of, but I started in my adulthood to get paid for the exact same thing. So, like, I feel more comfortable in that situation where I can be a weirdo and people are gonna laugh rather than and again, I started really going back to that, when I was lived in LA and I was really broke, and I can go into just how broke I was, just let's just one of the worst weeks of my life was when I got scabies, and the same week my cat got fleas because I was just,
Oh
like, living
god.
in squalor. It was so itchy, it was so horrible.
Oh my
But that was when I
gosh.
started really getting into performing stand-up comedy because I would get up there and I would just, like, talk about it. I would just say, like, make these jokes about how my life
Yeah.
was just falling apart, and I can make it funny and I can make people laugh, and it gave me a lot of power in that situation rather than a situation where I'm meeting new people and I have to explain, like, "I'm not sure that you wanna come hang out with me at my apartment." Like, "I don't think you want to. It's not
Oh
you won't
god.
enjoy yourself." So, yeah, I mean, I just get even I'll be at, like, a get together any, like, formal get together, I'm just sitting there, I'm, like, wringing my hands, it's, like,
Yeah.
pleasantries, because I'll just be the kind of person who says something really weird because I have a very strange brain, which makes me very good at what I do, and I
Yeah.
know that, but it also makes me a very awkward person at parties. Like, I was at a party at, I don't know if Nancy Rommelman, she's a good friend of mine, she's an amazing journalist. She has these get-togethers at her apartment where it's, like, a super eclectic group of people all the time. She's, like, in with the Reason crowd, but she's also friends with, like, Leah from Real Housewives, and, like,
Uh,
you just never know who you're gonna meet there, and so we're there, we're, hanging out, and I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, they're like, "Kat, what do you think about" I'm like, "I'm just wondering, like, there's a lot of people here, and somebody here is gonna be the one to die first, and I wonder who that is." And of course, like, everybody's like, "Get out, like, who is this person? Like, get out, like, let's talk to someone else." But
oh god.
I'm self-aware. I'm nothing if not self-aware, so I know that it's something that serves me well in a performing sense, but in a social sense, I will say something weird accidentally without even realizing it because my brain is just like that. And I do have I have anxiety, I have ADHD, I have depression. And again, my ADHD I've started to see as a gift because my brain going a million miles a minute is helpful in this specific job. But
Yeah. Yeah.
in other areas of life, it is not so much.
Well,
Like
you
it's
know
been a
what?
struggle.
I can understand that it's been a struggle. I love that you've overcome all of that and used this stuff to your advantage. But you know what? Who
Mhm.
needs parties anyway? I mean, if
Yeah.
to me, that would have been a fascinating topic. I would have started to look around the room and say, "I bet that guy over there is going to be
Yeah,
the
I
first
was
one to
like,
die."
because it's
And
gonna be
here's,
someone.
yeah, it is going to be someone. And here's how he's going to die. And then start
Yeah.
thinking about that. I mean, to me, that's far more interesting than the usual stuff you talk about at parties. All right, you said something a second ago, a minute ago, whatever, that totally has me picturing the moment. And now that you're happily married, I hope I can ask you this and you can
Yes.
retell it without getting emotional. But you said the guy you thought you were going to marry broke
Yeah.
up with you on Coney Island in front of your dad. Please,
Yes.
what the hell happened there? I got to know this story.
Yeah, we've been kind of, like, fighting a lot. My mom's sudden death was a strain on the relationship. She died of a rare disease called cardiac amyloidosis, where it's your body starts building up a protein that your liver can't break down, so it starts creating it. So it builds up in organs. So hers built up in her heart. And it kind of mimics symptoms of other illnesses, such as like she'd had cancer when I was in college. And so they were looking for that. They didn't have that. They're like, okay, it's just like a heart problem because it is really rare. And then once they find out what it is, it's too late. So once she was formally diagnosed, she died but 3 weeks after that.
Ugh.
And it was very stressful. And I was not an easy person to deal with. Um, and I ended up actually telling this story on the Gutfeld show because this was at the time, this was just a devastating. So we had been fighting about something. He like saw like a text in my phone he didn't like, and like it wasn't, there was no cheating. It was just like fighting. And my dad was visiting for Memorial Day weekend. So we were at Coney Island. We were all supposed to meet. He came and he met us, and we'd been still fighting over like the something stupid, but we'd been fighting so much. I had not been easy to be with. My dad, we had margaritas. My dad went to go get another round, and while my dad was getting another round, he broke up with me.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and I was devastated because I was like, there's a lot of emotions that come with, and this is somebody who now, when I had the advice show on Fox Nation, I had him on, like, we're fine now.
Wow.
But at the time, yeah, that's because we're in like, we have a lot of mutual friends, and it just wasn't, it ended up not being a match. But at the time, you're 26 years old and you're
Yeah.
thinking like, this is the last guy that like will ever be able to meet my mother. And that is a very deeply emotional thing. And it was the end of the world to me. And but then I was able to, years later, actually, I ended up telling the story on the Gutfeld show where I mentioned it as an offhand comment, and they ended up the whole story. And everyone was laughing so hard. And again, getting power of that experience, which was so
Yeah.
traumatic because, as I explained on the show, he hung out with us the rest of the day.
That takes some
After he
balls,
broke
man.
up.
I mean, that is unbelievable.
Yeah, he hung out the rest of the day, and, he, like, sat next to me on the Ferris wheel. He took the train back with us, and my dad was like, "This is the weirdest thing I've ever experienced." I mean, and especially because, like, he knew he was gonna break up with me when he came there, and
That
I I just feel like it can wait. Like, don't come
Yeah,
like, don't
yeah.
break up with a girl in front of her dad.
Especially when he's going to get another round of margaritas and you're planning on
Yeah,
spending
like,
the
my
rest of the
dad went to
day.
get the drinks, and this is, as I said this on the Gutfeld show, like, he went to get the drinks, he came back to a shitstorm,
Oh my gosh.
he's getting drinks, he comes back, and I'm like, like, it was,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
funny now, and, my husband, it's been easy, which, like, I've had all these relationships that have not been easy, and this has
Yeah.
been, I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda what people are talking about."
Yeah.
Uh,
That's when
so
you
it's a
know, folks.
yeah,
That's when you know when there are no red flags and it's
yeah,
easy. I mean, it
yeah,
just
totally. I mean, I got to a point where I had so many, but I was very single and I was happily single.
very
I was like,
single.
I'm
Yeah.
on my own and I don't want a boyfriend
Yeah.
and it's too much trouble. And my husband was not my type. I mean, I always dated musicians. I dated a rapper for a while. I dated comedians, act stuff like that, creative types.
Right.
And my husband is a former Army Ranger from Westchester who works in finance. So it's like I didn't want to go out with him.
Yeah.
And I was on the dating app Raya and I was at home for Christmas and I was scrolling through with my sister and she's the one that like clicked the like on him and I was like, he's wearing a lacrosse sweatshirt. Like that's so repulsive. And she was like, just try it. Like, just try it. So I went out with him. It was okay. He was really into me at first. I still wasn't sure. I canceled 2 dates on him, and then the third my sister was like, "One more time." But then on the he was the second date, he came kinda, like, dressed, like, in a hoodie and, like, a hat, and I was like, "Oh, like, he's kinda cute." Like, I just he was cute, and after that second date, we never spent a night apart after that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we wound up moving in together after 4 months of dating, and, I was somebody who was, like, just so not like, just, like, even the relationships that I was picking, I was, like it's almost if I was picking them because I was, like, I don't want anything serious. I hadn't had, like, an actual serious relationship really since the Coney Island guy. I mean, I had one guy that was, like, awful to me. We were on and off, on and off, on and off, and he was, like, cheating the whole time, and I knew it. Like, I don't really count I mean, that was a disaster.
Yeah, I've
Um
had those, yeah.
yeah, like, you break up, like, 60 times and you get
Yeah.
but that one doesn't really count as a relationship to me, but this and so people were like, "Kat," like so we started seeing each other, and then, like, after the second date, a week later that, we, like, made it exclusive, made it official, and then we moved in. All my friends were like, "Who are you? Like, what is happening?" But and they meet my husband, and it's we are intrinsically opposites. We
Hmm.
are totally opposites. But it works so much better. I mean, because he's good at things I'm not good at. I'm good at things he's not good at. And there's just this underlying like we have a lot of shared values, but
Right.
personalities are different. Um because I don't know, like me and another person who's like a creative type, it just always was a disaster. He's so even keeled, which I'm not so much.
Though it balances you out, and it's all
Yep.
those silly little things that people say, like opposites attract, or ours, my
Yeah.
strengths are his weaknesses, yada yada. But it seems to make sense once you finally find that, and it makes me very happy. I'd never heard the Coney Island story before. I'm glad you told it, but
Yeah, it's
I do remember when you got engaged, because something happened at the beginning of the show that never happens, which is they put you on camera like with your ring,
yeah,
and it was sort of like this, and I kind of went, "Is that?" Because I
yeah,
just been a fan of the show for so long. I feel kind of dorky. I feel kind of like I'm a geek, but I laugh. I like to laugh. I don't like to be lectured at, and
right.
I like to hear diverse opinions, and I don't need someone singing about vaccines on TV to me. So
No.
I just appreciate the show so much. What's interesting to me, though, too, is that you talk about the stand-up comedy part of your life, but you also wrote. And
Yeah.
how did you get into write? It's not easy to get published, Kat. You know that. So when you talk
Yeah.
about you just kind of this throwaway line, yeah, I wrote for the National Review. It's like, no, that's how did that happen?
So I was always a writer, and I mean that in like the truest sense. I mean, I would write for fun when I was little. I
Hmm.
really really enjoyed writing. I was, an English major. I, had internships where like I wrote, I worked at the Washington Times as an intern the summer after my junior year of college, and I had some doubts actually from people of the school of me getting the internship, not because of my writing but because of my professionalism. I I'm weird. I don't know, what the word is for. I'm quirky, I'm
You're
strange.
not cookie cutter,
No, I'm
business.
not.
Yeah, no.
And
Okay.
just me,
Yes.
showing up at the office and what is she gonna show up like and what is she gonna act, and this is the Washington Times. But I fought for it and I ended up having 10 front page articles in the course of a
Wow.
10-week internship. So I made a
Wow.
great impression there. So then when I moved to LA and I had, the internships in the broadcasting, and then I ended up getting fired from my job as a traffic reporter because I was giving wrong directions. So like I totally get it.
Wait,
I
where were you a
totally
traffic reporter? Which station?
it was a syndicate called Total Traffic Network, so it was like,
Okay. Wrong
KFI
direction.
and, like, all these different, so, like, I was in the helicopter, and I was like they would, like, kept me longer than they should have because they thought I had a great radio voice, which I do,
Yeah, you
but
do.
they were like, "Dude, like, you're leading people into traffic, like, you can't." So, I that was fair, but then I was struggling to know what to do, and the Washington Times reached out to me that they had a web editing position. So and that was there was no writing involved. So what I decided to do was just to kind of my whole philosophy is you can't wait for opportunities, you have to create opportunities. So
Mhm.
I would just, I applied for this writing fellowship, the Robert Novak fellowship. I got that. I started pitching ideas for pieces to bosses at the Washington Times, and writing in my spare time when I was there. I also used to did the same thing. They had a radio station in the building, and I showed up and I said, "Hey, I got some broadcast experience. Why don't I like come on like a couple times a week and do a segment?" And so I just kind of always wrote,
Yeah.
and rather than waiting for someone to ask me to write, and then I ended up quitting to take a lower paying job at the Leadership Institute Campus Reform because they wanted to get me on TV. They were like, "We're gonna TV train you. We're gonna get you on TV." So that ended up, obviously working out. But I ended up being pretty good at writing for the internet, in terms of like the little viral, like little clickbait, like
Yeah.
type stuff. And I had a
Yeah.
friend who worked at National Review, and they were kind of looking for somebody who could do that there. So I had 3 interviews at the National Review, and I remember because they were kinda like, "Okay, like, she's not really, like, conservative." Like, I'm libertarian,
Right.
but I'm not I'm not socially conservative at all.
Yeah.
I'm super non-interventionist in terms of foreign policy. I'm liberal in terms of immigration. I think anybody who wants to come contribute to our economy and who's nonviolent should be free to do so. So, I mean, I had a lot of interviews, and I remember I got in a little bit of trouble with the second one, even with, it was Jack Fowler and Rich Lowry, who I absolutely love.
Right.
Um, they were like, "Okay, so what's your stand-up like?" I was like, "No, it's, like, fine." And then they, like, talked to someone, they're like, "No, she's, like, naughty jokes, basically." And they're like, "Just tell us the truth." I had 3 interviews, and then I had a 3-month trial period. During that 3-month trial period is when my mom ended up dying. But, like, right after that, like, it was a matter of, like, not it was, like, right after the trial period, but she ended up getting sick, rather. And, it was and then but it was just writing, I guess, and really, I remember the beginning of the National Review, and I would stay late, and just if I didn't find anything to write about, I would be there for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And then I kinda moved, as I into, like, if I had ideas for more serious, longer form pieces, I started to kind of write those. I think that writing is something that I just never waited for an opportunity to be able to do.
You just did it. It's quite a career that you've found for yourself. I asked someone this the last time I was there in New York with you all, and I said to someone leaving that night, you know, you probably knew this was gonna pop this show, but did you know it was gonna really do what it's doing ratings wise, popularity? And they said, no way. So I'll ask the same to you. What did you think was going to happen once Gutfeld became a, nightly show rather than just that Saturday gig?
Yeah, I mean, especially because everybody wanted us to fail so badly, and you can say you tuned it out, but you don't. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Greg gave me the advice for the first few months to just not look at it on social media, which I
Right.
followed, and he didn't follow his own advice, I don't think,
Ah,
but
this typical.
it was really helpful. Um, I mean, because, I mean, we had the first episode, and, of course, everybody zeroed in on maybe certain things that didn't work and not anything that did, and there's also the factor of course, like, it's the first one,
Yeah.
and, like, there's always things that need to be worked out, but I never imagined. I thought, like, people would watch it, but I didn't expect to be beating Colbert.
I
Like,
know,
no, I
right?
didn't expect that at all. It's crazy. It's out
Yeah.
like, it I don't think anybody did. I really don't. I really don't think anybody did. I mean, even when the weekly show started doing those kind of numbers, we were all kinda shocked.
Yeah. Which is what
And
obviously propelled it, right? Is that when you saw those numbers and
yeah.
you thought, why aren't we doing this every night?
Yeah, it was actually something that they were discussing for quite a while of doing it every
Okay.
night. I think something that a lot of people may not realize, I mean, is just how small our staff is. It's a lot of I don't know, we have maybe like 14, 15 people, something like that. And that includes, like, me, Greg, like, Greg's assistant. Like, Greg has, like, two people who, like, are writers full time for the
Yeah.
show, and I write
Yeah.
for the show a lot. Like, we all wear a lot of hats, and
Mhm.
especially when you think about, like, Stephen Colbert has what, like, 20 people or 30
Oh,
people who just write,
yeah.
and he has, like, a costume department. We have,
Yeah.
like, we'll send an intern out to, like, Party City, or at Party City or whatever, the Halloween store, and we film everything on iPhones for, like, sketches, and we'll have, like, an hour where we'll all write it and film it, and it's, so I think it's crazy to even like, if we weren't beating all these people, I would even say, like, it would be unfair to even compare us to them
Yeah.
because our resources, there's such a huge discrepancy in terms of resources, so that's what makes it even more insane that we are beating them.
But what makes it very, understandable is the charm of that, because you see producers and guys that are doing the bits, you can tell who's not a professional actor in those bits,
Yeah.
and that's charming, and it's and clearly no one's taken it so seriously that, that you feel looked down upon. Rather than sort of this elitist view of the world, it's sort of this common man's view of the world. None of you is common, but it's this, I don't know, this full circle sort of grouping that you have. And it's one of those things. I always think about Led Zeppelin. Sorry, I do,
Mhm.
because they're one of my favorite bands, and it's the chemistry. It's
Yeah.
every great band is great because they find this bizarre, rare chemistry that ends up working for it. And I think you guys have found that. And I sure hope it doesn't spoil ever because it's so refreshing. It's so much fun. And I congratulate you. Last thing I want to ask you about, I've known Kennedy since 1998. We worked together on the Olympic Games in Nagano. She was brought in as sort of this, oh, she's so edgy, cool, MTV, blah, blah, blah. And we did the opening ceremony together, and I was abysmal, and that's all I remember about it. But she was the officiant at she
Yep.
officiated your wedding, right?
Yep. She sure
How did
did.
you choose? How did you choose her?
Well, I mean, she just knew us really well. I know she'd done it before for, like, Guy Benson and his husband.
Right.
She did I mean, like, she did such a great job. Like, she came in, over and kinda talked through, like, what stands out of our relationship and those kinds of things. She took it really seriously, like, "What do you guys want?" And she did, like it's the best to have someone marry you who really knows you guys, like,
Mm,
not just you individually, but knows you guys as a couple. I
yeah.
mean, when I was dating horrible men and this and that, like, I was Kennedy's couch I was passing out on all upset all the time, and so it was like it was crazy, to have this amazing relationship and have her kind of watch it from the beginning.
Right.
And I remember one thing that she said when she was marrying us, and again, going back to, like, how not alike my husband and I are, is, like, she said, like, "This pairing of people proves that love is, like, it's not an algorithm."
Yeah.
And, it was just she does such a great job,
Yeah.
and, she just, like, took it really seriously, you know?
It's
And
so
I
cool.
cried. She did a great job.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh. I mean, that's awesome. See, the guy that married us in the Episcopal Church, St. Mark's in downtown Minneapolis, he was the very Reverend Joel. And about 6 months after we got married, he was kicked out of the church. So we're not sure if we're still really legally married,
Yeah.
but we're hoping so. We're just going to
Yeah.
go with it. We're going to go with it.
Not sure
Um,
how that works.
I'm not, I don't know either. I honestly, never mind. It's too much about religion and not enough about what matters, which is love, Kat. Love is the answer. That's what they say.
Mhm.
All right, she found that really funny.
Mhm.
Hey, thank you so much for the time. It's just
Of
a good
course.
look into who you are. And I think what people really ought to take away from this is that you embrace everything about yourself, I'm
Yeah.
not easily, I'm sure. I
No.
and that is a journey through a life. And I just love how you've made this new life for yourself, how you have Cheens and Carl, and they
Yes.
represent these very two different sides of life for you. And so congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. She is Kat Timpf, and you can catch Gutfeld. If you don't watch it, why don't you just try? Get over the part that last thing, Kat, before I let you go, the other night you said when you don't want people to like, you think it's so controversial that you work at Fox News Channel, so you just tell them you do porn, which
Porn,
you
yeah.
think is less controversial. Why can you is it still do you still find this that if people say that you're meeting for the first time, find out you work at Fox News Channel, that they're like, taken aback? What is the thing?
It's absurd because people think that, like, Fox News is one brain, which is just not true. I mean,
No.
like, you're gonna hear, me, Greg, and Tyrus talking about different stuff at 11 p.m. than you're gonna hear on Fox and Friends Weekend. You
Right.
know? I mean, there's a lot of different individuals here with different individual beliefs. And it's like when I tell people I work at Fox, they're like, some people have only seen like certain, things from Fox, like little clips on like
Right.
other late night shows, or they heard someone, they go back to something someone else said years ago that was, and it's just like, okay, like, what if you heard me say something that I was like it's so ridiculous because
Yeah.
I'm such a person who is an individual and sees others as individuals and
Yeah.
evaluates others as individuals. And a lot of the people who kind of claim to do that, they don't as soon as you say Fox News.
It's crazy, folks. Just get out of that mindset. Burst the
Yes.
bubble. Go watch Gutfeld. It's on at 11 Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. Terrific show. Lots of fun, amazing talent, and really fun guests, too. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, Kat. I'm glad I know more about you. I'm glad I know the margarita story now in Coney Island. It's just all coming full circle. Great having you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Sideline Sanity. I'm Michelle Tafoya. Thanks for watching.